Good.
Hi, Rena. How are you? Thank you for joining me
Good. How
today.
are you? Thank you for having me on.
I'm so excited to sit with you today. We're going to talk.
I'm very proud of you, and I'm very excited to sit with you too.
Aw, thank you. We are going to talk all things mom and being a boss CEO and being a leader. And I couldn't think of a better person to sit down and have this conversation with.
Thank you. Thank you. That's flattering.
No, you are incredible. So where do we start? Because you just do you are just multifaceted, passionate. You're a broker. You're a mentor. Where do we even begin?
It's funny that you should say that too, because I just had a mentor call right before this, and I'm running around like a lunatic today, trying to like I'm keeping it all together. But there are definitely days where you're like, oh my God, there aren't enough hours. I'm never going to get this all done. But so I am a broker. I guess first and foremost, we'll talk about I guess mom, mom, daughter, da. But I'm a broker owner of a company called Pulse International Realty, PULSE, like your heart. And we have offices here in South Florida. Our office is in Miami Beach, right off of Lincoln Road. And in New York, we are in the Hudson Yards area. We were actually on Madison Avenue in Midtown for a while and moved west towards Hudson Yards because that was an area that was developing and emerging. And I love emerging markets. And it was just an exciting new place to have the office. So, and I like the idea of having Lincoln Road Mall and Hudson Yards. It was like this, two great spots in two cities that I love. Yeah. I really started out with real estate in New York, and then I was relocated by Hudson Capital / Crescent Heights, to come to South Florida and work on some projects with them. And then once I was done with that section of my life, which was working directly for developers, I started working with my developer relationships on the general brokerage side because I focus a great deal on commercial and investment. And I've been doing this for about 18 years now. So a lot of cultivated relationship between two synergistic cities. And so I work with the developers to, help them achieve whatever it is that they're looking to achieve in their portfolios. I've run the gamut on all the different facets, work for the developer, manage teams. I've done training, and having my own broker, the right sort of organic way to go when I did it, which was like a decade ago, because I felt like you can really relate to your agents and to your client base better when you've actually had to do it. When you actually pound the pavement, and I pound the pavement till today. I just ran in like off of traffic, like just got back in time, like when you're
don't
actually
look it though.
A little lipstick does wonders.
You look fabulous.
You're like spray lipstick, or you're good.
I guess you get used to it when you are a busy CEO. You kind of get used to just, okay, I'm good.
I'm good. So, and being a mom too, back when cat's out of the bag, when we worked together, I was, raising my two little boys then on my own. And it was like, you want to fit in, you have to raise them. You want to be there as a mom. You don't miss the basketball games. You don't miss the soccer games. There's the school plays, there's the functions. Plus you have all of your work meetings, and then, and bosses to answer to, which there is a difference, between that and being your own boss. I'm not sure which is more challenging. They both have their own challenges.
You do.
But, back then it was the same sort of catch your breath, because you're like, okay, I'm dropping them off at school and I'm going to get there on time, or I had a late night because you still want to, have a social life, and then be there in the morning to give them their breakfast and do everything. I mean, it's like, there's just so much. And then when they say, what is that? Women's work is never done. Never done. Is that the saying? Is that
yeah.
It's so true.
It's true.
It's so true. We're like, I read somewhere.
And yet we look fabulous doing it. Like while we do it, we still what? Did I sweat? No, there's no sweat here.
I'm like, wait a second. It's like, as long as you like stay far enough away from the wrinkles. So, but I read somewhere, it's actually a biological thing. I don't know if you know this, that and I could be totally wrong, but I read it somewhere and I am stuck on this idea that the reason that we multitask so well as women is there's something about our brain waves. And there will be some doctor watching this somewhere telling me this girl does not know what she's talking about. But this is what I read and I'm going with it. Our brain waves do this as opposed to this. And so instead of vertical lines, we're able to do a little of this and a little of this and a little of this and a little of this. So we're
makes sense to me.
That way. It makes sense to me.
It makes sense to me. If the doctor says anything, hey, it makes sense.
I don't know. I mean, obviously the proof is in the pudding is what we're doing. So, and with men, they're very good at being task oriented because they focus on one task at a time.
Yes.
That's their strength.
That is their strength for sure.
Whereas you think that as women, we're generally just, we are ADD because we're all over the place, but we didn't call it ADD. We just called it
multitasking.
Mom.
Or wearing different hats or being a mom. Exactly. I think being a mom is probably the best title for it.
Yeah. And you know that with your two beautiful little ones. So.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, I do. I'm doing contracts while feeding the little one or I'll be looking for properties and still trying to pay attention to e-learning. It's just part of the game.
I have to say, my hat's off to all of the parents that have had to do, the school from home, and the e-learning, because thank God my kids are older. And so I didn't have, so my son is working from home now. And my other son is actually living in New York. So I'm totally split. It's like I've got, a business and a son in each state. So in a way it's great because I always get to be with one, Yeah. But yeah, so we're working. So, we're both working from home. And so we have to, there's this, we have to constantly sort of, hey, I'm going to be on a call. So don't just walk in my room or don't knock on my door. Like, like be a little quieter because I'm on a Zoom thing or whatever. So, and we respect each other's, space, but that's way different than, all the moms that have to do like this, work from home, school from home, it's crazy. I actually have a client now that she's a single mom too. And she has this great 1-bedroom, apartment in New York in a financial district. And she's been there for a while. And I found her an extraordinary larger, like 2-bedroom in the city, like right there in the financial district. And there's like some great opportunities now in Manhattan. Obviously the prices I'm negotiating prices I've never been able to negotiate before. So it's a great opportunity for her to move. I was a salesperson. So it's a great opportunity for her to move, so it's a great time to buy. It's not a great time to sell. So it's kind of like this, like stuck, but I listed her apartment to sell so that she can upgrade. And I was just like, honestly, hats off. Like you have to do everything from home, which we all have. This has been a very challenging year for everyone. But when you have little ones, it's got to be even more challenging. There's no break.
No, that's probably the hardest part. You got right down to it. Is there's no break. Like the little breaks I get is maybe going, because I get almost all my groceries delivered. Sometimes I'm like, we need something from the grocery store. I'll be right back. Just to get a little break, because it does get to be a lot. But I also try to I'm blessed to be able to be home with them. Like when it is challenging and I get those obstacles, I try to shift my mind to think, but you know what? I'm home and I'm lucky to be home, because there's some people that have to still make other sacrifices or make other arrangements. And I'm lucky enough to be.
A lot of sacrifices. We've seen a lot of sadness this year.
But we've also seen some really good shifts in understanding that family is important, that health is important. So Agreed. It comes with, it comes with the good and some of it comes with lessons, I guess is probably.
No, I think everything comes with lessons. We were talking about this, how every child is a blessing and sort of brings this new, awakening in you and this new, just you discover more of yourself. You discover more about, other people, and, because you're dealing, heart to heart. And even though you created these human beings, they still have something else that they're, bringing to the table. They still have their own, and you're getting to understand people. So it's important to see the blessings in everything. And you're right. You remember when we were in like serious lockdown here, and it was like when we were quarantining in the beginning, right? And I remember walking our dog. We have a black lab. His name is Buddy, and he's very cute. And so every time I would take him out to walk, I was like, oh my God. It's like, or I would go running. I live in Aventura. And so we have this circle around the golf course that we call the circle. Very creative. So we call it, and it's, but it's the running path, bike path. And so it became, since all the gyms were closed and everything, that's what we did. We all just went running on the circle because that's what we could, do. But I was seeing birds and butterflies and all kinds of creatures I had never seen before, because there were more of them. It was like Mother Nature got to, just like the world got to heal a little bit.
Yes.
Fewer cars, fewer boats, fewer planes. And even though it's been very stressful for us from an economic standpoint, and just restructuring everything. But I think as human beings, we're actually really strong and we're very capable. Even like you look at it like from the standpoint of real estate, we're both in real estate. You look at how the market shifts and restructures all the time.
All the time.
It's you're constantly evolving, so very common terminology is buyer's market and seller's market. I mean, I've already said it in this conversation, and that's the most layman term of, the shift in a market, right? But there are so many different shifts that happen and so many ways that we have to adapt. So we adapt to this kind of market or that kind of market.
Sure.
Now we have to the fact that office buildings are empty and we need to restructure assets, so what will they be next? And I think what I love most is that, they always say you should surround yourself. You should never be the smartest person in the room. I used to say that to my kids all the time. Don't ever be the smartest person in the room, because then you've got nothing to learn, and it's important to learn. So I love
understanding that that's okay is another thing, because sometimes you feel like, oh, why am I here? But it's important to know that it's very good that you're there, because that's how some of the most powerful people have become who they are, is surrounding themselves by people that are smarter than them.
Mm-hmm. I've asked people that are very successful in their own realm, and they're, in, different businesses. I'm like, well, how did you get there? And how do you manage so many people? And they're like, because I want to learn too, we're doing this to be successful, and, and they're like, I just surround myself with talented people. And there's always the chance that when you surround yourself with good, talented people, that they're going to absorb from you and then they're going to move on and do their own thing. I mean, it's what I did, So, but that's actually, it's flattering and it's nice. And it's good to know that you've kind of said, it's like your children, you send them off into the world with more knowledge, and they can, and they can grow too. But, I've always told my kids, make sure you're not the smartest person in the room, because, you don't want to be the BMOC with a bunch of idiots. Like, at least have something to learn. So when I'm dealing a lot of times with very sophisticated transactions, I learn so much from the way that my clients negotiate, from the way that they underwrite and analyze, and I listen to them. And then I learn, I see the way that they're restructuring their investments now, what their focus is now. You have to pay close attention. You always have to pay attention. And I learn so much, it's like the school of, it's just life,
Real
like school of real estate, not school of hard knock, school of rock.
It's a school of real estate for sure. And each investor is unique, just like each property is unique. I've noticed that with no two investors are going to be the same. No two investors are going to be looking at the same type of property. Even though they say, oh, value add, you also have to make them elaborate, because then sometimes it's even though
Well,
there's,
sometimes they're just saying buzzwords, they're like, I want, and it's always like
yeah,
the
they
same,
don't really,
the value add was like the terminology du jour for all of last year. And now there's all kinds of value add, but how are you going to add value? Are you going to increase the rent? Are you going to, convert the asset to a different type of asset? Are you going, what I'm saying? Are you going to reduce the expenses? Like, there's so many different things. So you
yeah.
have to know going into it. And but that's what's exciting, is that every single day is different. This is going to be like a promotion for anybody. Hey, any of you out there that want to get into real estate?
I'm
No,
starting to feel you're trying to get you agents this way too. I
I,
see
I,
you, girl. I see
actually
you.
wasn't thinking of that, but now, yeah,
Always a sale. Always a
for
sale.
both of us. No 2 days are alike.
It's true.
There's every single day is different. Every single day you're in a different place. Now, here, okay, the negative is you don't know if and when you're getting paid, ever. You get up every day to work and you have no idea if it's going to end up in a payday or not, but you have to give it your all. So there are definitely some downsides to it. This is not for the meek, and not for the weak. You really need to hustle to make it work, But
You need to have a
but I
brand
love
too.
it. No, to yeah. Well, I mean, and building a brand's hard. Building a brand is, you have to, it's also it's this constant marketing in your face. And people think that having, now that when I started, it was like put an ad in the New York Times on Sunday. Like there wasn't a lot more that you could do from a marketing standpoint. Mailers and postcards and, like the weekly like prime time and little papers that would come to the house and stuff, and door hangers, and calendars with the football schedule. And, it was all like that, for, for football season. But now it's actually more work. Yeah. Like when you put it on the internet, it goes everywhere, but it's like, you have to actually do it in so many different places. Plus the blasts, plus the social media. But it's like, you have to be on top of everything. Like now you have to be this marketing guru. So there's a lot to do. There's a lot of work, but again, I love that every day is different and every person is different. You never know. It's exciting. You wake up in the morning, you don't know who you're meeting.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And you get to meet people from all different backgrounds, all different types of life experiences, all types of different industries, so it's really, that's what I get. That's why the commercial side was so exciting for me, because I would meet people from all, someone, one of my clients, you wouldn't think it'd be that exciting, but I got excited. Like he manufactured, what are they called? Energy pills out of a warehouse. So he needed like a bigger warehouse. And you would think that would be like, so like, why would you get excited? Because I wanted to what kind of machine do you need? Like, machines do you use? Like, what do you do with them when you're done? Like, I was interviewing him instead of him interviewing me. And that's why he hired me, by the way.
No, but you know what? But you're smart, because when you understand what a person's needs are, then you're able to facilitate and you're able to help them with those needs. And that's on commercial. I think this dog's about to bark. I got very excited. And that's in commercial or residential. You know what I'm saying? It's more than just doing, we've got all these like automated searches, right? That'll keep popping out stuff. I'm not a huge advocate of it. I mean, I'm glad that it exists, because it kind of keeps you top of mind because stuff keeps popping up. But I'm not about the, let me send them a million things and see what sticks. I like to really listen. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're saying, what do you do? How do you need? Are you going to need, are pallets delivering it? Are you using forklifts? Can you do 2 floors? Can you do it? Like, there's a lot of stuff, where, the accessibility to what highway or airport do you need? How is the delivery coming and going? Where do you live? How can we make this easier? There's, and that's just like, let's say commercial warehouse, right? But then there's also like, the ground up developments, that there's a lot you have to ask there. And even with homes, especially now, are you going to work from home? Do you need a separate office space in your home? Or do you, do you need the home gym? Do you need to be do you need to see water? Do you need to walk I mean, like, there's all these different things, and you can pick. I honestly believe, and I've always done this, that you could probably narrow it down. I mean, if you're really, really listening, 10 properties, you know, even 5. Depend, like if the person really knows what they want, they'll find it in 5. You know, if you're listening and you send them the right stuff. And then it shortens the time.
It's asking the right question. It's always about asking the right questions. You have to learn how to ask questions. And that I used to shy away from that because I would feel like either it would be kind of like irritating or, you know, it's, oh, she's gonna ask another question. But I've learned to try to learn to ask the right questions, not just drill them with like a questionnaire, which a lot of agents do. They'll just send a questionnaire and say, okay, fill out this questionnaire for me. Like, who has time for that?
Are you pre-qualified? Which is important. But are you pre-qualified?
Okay.
How many bedrooms?
How do you think because you seem to have kind of in your business be able to handle both commercial and residential, and for a lot of people it's hard to really, you know, keep up with both. How do you think that came? Do you think it's because you had already that you were working for a developer, so you already kind of had a lot of knowledge in land and on and all?
Well, when I was working for the developer, I mean, as you recall, I was heading up, you know, so I was more in the sales manager, sales director position. But the land, the knowledge of commercial, it came more from when I was growing up. I was sort of inadvertently a part of it. You know, my dad was buying properties. He was buying gas station properties. So I wasn't licensed or anything like that, but I was driving around with him and I would just sort of pick up on it. Like, oh, that's a good corner, you know, and this looks like it would have a good traffic count. And then he would say, you know, and then I would start making calls and, you know, try to find a brand, you know, like that would lease from him. And I found myself sort of doing it naturally. I just had a very natural inclination towards the understanding of, you know, what piece of land would work for what. My eyes were ordered. I was sort of like alert to it, you know, and I liked it. I like that it's an emotional sale is an emotional sale, and that's usually what a home is. You know what I mean? It's you know, and that's great. It's great, but the analytics that go behind a commercial deal, I find really interesting, which is incredible because I was horrible at math in school. And now all I do is seek out these complicated formulas to figure out how this is going to work, you know, today, tomorrow, and the day after, you know, with projections and, you know, all sorts of, you know, plans and, you know, what's the highest and best use. And it became really exciting to me to do that. So I always had my finger on that, you know, like I'm on the commercial side. But then when you get your license, you know, you're immediately sort of gravitated into this residential aspect of real estate. So you're like, okay, fine, I can do this. You know, you start to see the difference. And I love both. I love people. I love working on the buyer side. I'll be honest with you. I've got agents with the company that are phenomenal listing agents. And you know, I always want to be successful. So, you know, if I'm listing something, I want to be successful at the listing. But personally, I get a lot of fulfillment working on the buyer side, whether it's for commercial or residential, because I feel like you're putting a puzzle together. You know, it's like you were saying, you ask the right questions and then you have to figure it out. And you have to, you know, and when it fits, like when the right, you know, investment, when you can fit the right investment with the right person, and it feels great. It's like a puzzle. It's like putting a puzzle together.
It does feel great to like build their portfolio and then they call you years down the line for, you know, advice, or I love to get those calls. Like, oh, you know, since I have the management background, some of those calls, I'm like, I treasure them. I'm like, you called me, like, out of all people? Oh my God, let me write this down. I feel
that's exciting. And you're developing those relationships that way. A lot of times my really great residential deals are coming from my commercial clients, you know, and I encourage all the agents on my team also to, you know, to open their eyes and their mind to both, you know, because when you go out there and you say, no, I'm just a commercial agent, you're missing out on a lot of opportunity. That same person that you are helping them to build their portfolio is looking for a home. Why are you going to let them look for it with somebody else? There's no reason you can't facilitate that. There's no reason.
I love that you said that, because I've been drilled, like, you need to stick with one. You're not a resi, what do they call it? Resi commercial agent. You're either residential or commercial. And there's art people that do both like you. But
don't do labels.
What?
I said, I don't do labels. I don't do labels.
But it's true, and you know that there's usually a separation. That's why a lot of the large firms, they separate them. You're either here or here. You can't be anywhere in between.
I think that it's also, I think, well, look, you're a broker owner too, so you know that, like, when it's maybe maybe a lot of companies do it from a management standpoint. I've thought about it too. They also would make people stick geographically to a certain area. I think as an agent, okay, you're an independent contractor. If you want to service your clients well, you need to have knowledge of the particular market that they're interested in. You need to have boots on the ground. So that's your responsibility. So if you're going to take that on, make sure that you can fulfill it. But I'm not going to tell you, you can only be in Brickell, or you can only be in Weston, or you can only be, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm sorry, I just remember something.
That's great that you encourage that, and you're able to mentor them either way too, because you have experience in both, which is invaluable, because there's not a lot of people that specialize in both, that can do both, I should say. Or like, a lot of times when you steer one way or the other, but you're doing multiple deals on both ends, so you have the experience and you're able to help others. That's a great thing to have in a leader and a broker and a friend, mentor.
Oh, so I'm involved in this really cool mentorship program, because we're all about, like, women, and we're doing our whole girl boss thing. It's a group. It's called Women of Tomorrow. It's my 3rd year doing it. And each mentor gets assigned a high school. And the premise of it is to mentor at-risk young women. You should look into it. Women of Tomorrow.
All high school? Like a whole high school?
Well, no, it's about 30 girls, because they have to, and these are really bright, wonderful girls. They're seeking a scholarship. So they join the Women of Tomorrow program as an additional thing to their curriculum.
So it's within the school it's kind of like a club that they sign up for, and then we sign up to be their, I'm down.
Be their mentor. Yeah, you should do it.
If they'll have me, where do I sign?
I will send an email and copy you and recommend you, and you should. Yeah. And it's wonderful. I get a lot of fulfillment out of it. I really do, because it's like, it's been the 3rd year. So I've seen some of these girls, and then their younger sisters, like when they graduate, then their younger sisters are in the class. And these girls are they're real go-getters. They want scholarships. They will, and I don't make our exercises staunch, but I'll do things like, I had one session, because I'm always with, like, the notebook,
I like paper too, and everybody makes fun of me. I love paper. I don't trust apps or anything, because sometimes I can't open it, and give me paper.
My book is a hot mess. I'm always taking notes, and it's like, but I will know. Page 3, top left corner, circled in red, da-da-da-da-da, like, I'll know where it is, it's like, because I think I also retain when I'm writing.
Yeah, me too.
So I'm constantly like pen and notebook in hand. And
you want to see my pen? Do I get like points? Do I get points for like
Which one am I holding now? Oh, mine's a plug for Cardinal Financial. They do a lot of my lending for my clients.
Listen, sales girl. Listen.
Plug.
I'm kidding.
I got more plugs. Okay. Brown & Brown. My son does insurance with Brown & Brown. Property and casualty. Whole family thing going on here.
That's hilarious.
Where's my pulse pen?
Yeah, exactly. You're not even promoting yourself.
I've got masks. I've got pulse masks. That's more important right now.
That's true. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. So, but anyway, so I get a lot of fulfillment out of it because it's really nice. So we'll do fun things like, so I bought them all like notebooks and then, you know, and explain to them, you know, how, you know, when you think of something, it's almost like your grown-up diary. It's like, oh my God, yeah, I want to go and do this. I want to do that. I mean, you remember, I don't know, I'll drive by a property and be like, oh yeah, I want to remember this, or somebody's name, or tons and tons of calculations and, you know, all sorts of things. It's good. It's good to have it. And I've got like stacks and stacks of books. And so yeah, I love it. So I did that. I did another one with them where we did our trajectories, like the vision boards. So I brought in magazines and stuff, and we literally sat on the floor. We pushed all the desks aside and we sat on the floor and we were cutting out, and they all did their vision boards, which was so nice because it was like really getting to know them.
I'm very good. Is it weird? I'm very good at vision boards. Is that weird?
No, it's not weird at all. It's good. That's why you're getting to the success that you're getting to, because you have the vision board. I really do believe we have to envision and see ourselves where we want to see ourselves in order to get there. If you're thinking, it's not possible, I'm not going to get there, you're not going to get there, you know?
No, so I believe, especially I would say within the last 4 years, is really I've grown and really started doing the work on like inner work about 4 years ago. And I think with every step that you take, you need to start planning and thinking bigger, and asking for help if you need help, asking to, you know, you don't need to necessarily, you can find a mentor without them even knowing that they're your mentor. A lot of my mentors didn't know they were my mentor.
Yeah, but if you have, what?
No, they didn't know. I just would call them and say, you know, I need help with such and such. What would you do? And you just build the relationship. They don't need to necessarily know.
It's like, it's also coming out of your shell. It's not being shy. It's asking for the things that you need, you know?
And that takes a little confidence too, because it is, you feel nervous asking people to,
I think I still, I think what happens too is sometimes when you've spent the majority of your adult life just kind of fending for yourself and being independent, asking is very, very hard. Asking is hard for me. Asking is still hard for me. So I try to listen as much as possible, but I don't know how to ask for help, admittedly. And that's like a very vulnerable thing for me to say. But even vulnerability takes strength, which I'm learning.
It does.
You know, you can't always be.
But there's nothing wrong with. I've learned that more recently, and you know what? Sometimes people are so happy that you even ask them. Like you wouldn't even think that they would respond that way. And they're like, me? Like, you want me to help? Yes. What can I do? Like sometimes I just yesterday I had someone that I haven't seen in years from middle school. She found me on social media and she asked me for help. And I was like, me? Yes. What can I do? And you just don't know how that person's going to respond. So I've learned that kind of almost the hard way, where you just have to kind of just ask, and you'll be so surprised sometimes, and where it will lead, and what, you know, a relationship or connection. It's just, so don't be afraid. I think because you're very independent and strong. So sometimes, at least that was me. I felt like it showed almost like a side of weakness. Like, if I need help, I don't need your help. I can do this. I got this.
Yeah. No, and it's true. And the more confident you get, it's true. The more confident you get, the easier it is for you to say, you know what, I can't do this. And it's important to know, like I've been saying recently, like I know what I know and I know what I don't know.
Yes.
And I'm okay with not knowing something now, because, you know, you can't know everything, you know, yeah. So you have to learn. And I actually, I love, yesterday we were doing, because now we have to do our staff meetings on Zoom. And I love it. And, you know, sometimes we'll have more agents show up than not. I think with the Zoom, you know, sometimes you get even more attendance, because I've got agents in New York and here in South Florida. So at least this way we can all be together in this.
That's actually kind of cool though, because now they are like all getting to know each other when they probably wouldn't have much of the opportunity to do that before.
Wouldn't have had, totally, because it would have been like separate meetings. So I really love it. for in that respect. I prefer in person because I'm a
Yeah.
hugger, so I really want to be in person and hug. But it's definitely very efficient in that regard that I get more attendance. And I love it when there's more of us there. And and so of course, you're leading the meeting, you have your talking points and you have like, what we have to cover, make sure you get your W-9s in and all that kind of stuff. But I really love asking them, well, what do you think we should do? Or what do you think I should do? And having it more as a team environment rather than like, you have to set your expectations anyway as a leader, but I love hearing their ideas. And I love when we all start to chat and talk. So when things get quiet, I'm looking at the screen, I'm like, can somebody talk so it's not just me?
Love masterminding. And my favorite question, and you're welcome to steal, is what is your challenge with this week that I can help you with? Bring it.
I love that.
I love that question. And you know what? It opens the floor and people aren't as afraid to, because sometimes people are afraid to ask because, they're just either shy or whatever the case may be. But if you say, what is the challenge you have with this week that I can help you with? All of a sudden and then you have a group of agents. So it's not just me, because I'm like you, if I don't know, even when a client says, can you help me with this? That's something I don't know, but I will try to find the answer. If I don't have the answer, I will connect you with an agent that does. Because, I'm not
like
the master of all trades.
No, and I love that. I love that the way that you're posing the question. Well, we have a section of our meeting every week or every 2 weeks, depending on how we're doing it. It's basically, so every time we have a meeting, everyone needs to, everyone can have the floor and say what they want and what they need. So it could be for themselves, it could be for a client, it could be, and it's the whole idea is, and it's a bullet point in our agenda for the meeting, wants and needs, because you never know, like, how people are always interacting and they're saying, oh, you know what, I'm looking for a short-term this and that, I'm looking for X, and you don't have everything in your bag of tricks. You need to be able to interact with other professionals, because like yesterday we were talking about warehouses, we were having more of a commercial talk. And I was saying, well, I have a client that's looking for, such and such a thing. So one of the agents was like, oh, I've got a warehouse. And then one of the other agents said, oh, somebody just asked me for a warehouse. So while we're on the phone, I'm like, well, here it is. So we start sharing. And so a lot of times our challenge we're facing is, finding that right puzzle piece, right, for that client. And if you talk about it, somebody else might have it. There's
magic in it. There's power. There's magic in it, for sure.
There's power in that conversation, and I'm totally about the co-broke. I think that there's enough to go around. It has to be a volume thing. You can't hoard it all. Like, oh, I want all the commission for this deal. Share it. Just share it. You get a piece. You get a piece. Everybody gets a piece. Everybody should get a piece of something, because then you can move on to the next one. You're going to stay stuck on the same deal forever and ever. There's no pipeline.
Sure.
If your pipeline's empty, you're dead in the water. So
that's why you need to be like Rena and always be a salesman.
You know what? But what's really funny is, like, so we were talking about how asking is difficult, right? So so this year, aside from the Women of Tomorrow, I sit on the board of the Christian Rivera Foundation, which raises funds and awareness for DIPG. I went to a gala last year and did some silent auction stuff. And I was, to be honest, I was doing some reconnaissance and investigating and digging into different philanthropic organizations. I used to sit on the board of the Miami Children's Hospital. So it's always been very much about children and mothers and children. That's typically my focus, probably because, being a single mom, like, and I know the potential hardships. And so that's why I'm either working with, at-risk young women, or, children that are ill, or single parents. Like, I try to, you want to help. And I think that helping and paying it forward is very, very important. It's important to get, as brokers and as real estate professionals, it becomes a lot of, even though you're servicing your customer, you're in your own cocoon of like, I need. And I think there's so many people that need around us, and you have to open yourself up. So I had gone to this gala because I co-founded a philanthropic organization called Divas, Philanthropic Business Leaders, with my partner, Eleonora. She's my partner in that organization. We've known each other for 20 years. We met through networking, and we put together this phenomenal concept that we could bring on C-suite level women and expand their individual networks based on what their needs are and who they need to meet, because we all have a circle of influence to help each other's circle of influence grow, and to do it very, very focused on each diva that's a member of the group, but all the while giving back. So every networking thing that we would do will give money and we'll give funds to the organization that we select. So I was on this like recon thing of like, okay, we're getting off the ground. We have our charter members, we're applying for the 501c, C3, all that. So we're like, okay, what are we going to focus on? And I went to this gala, and I missed the galas. I wish they were still around. And met an amazing, amazing man, John Rivera, who lost his son 11 years ago, Christian, and he started the Christian Rivera Foundation. And DIPG is a terrible cancer that affects children in the stem of their it's the center of the brain stem. So it's very quick. They've been doing this for 11 years. And so I'm kind of now at the tail end of it. They feel through all these trials that they've had that we're probably getting closer to a cure or to a treatment. I probably see it in the next 2 to 3. Before I knew it, I was sitting on that board. So, and I am talking about like asking, I ended up doing really well for the foundation, and I'm very, very excited and very proud. And I'm very, very, very grateful to all of my clients, and friends and colleagues that contributed. I don't know how fundraisers do it. Asking, I just told you, I don't even know how to ask for anything much. But asking for money, no matter how heartfelt the cause is something really hard to do. Mm-hmm. And these are, it's necessary. But it's like, it's so hard. I'm always like, well, if you can't, it's even $1, and like, I'm so embarrassed, you don't, like, you want to help, but feel bad to ask. But, yeah, but it was, what was great about this year too, is like, I feel like we worked even harder, but because we had some of this going on, like this online stuff, it was,
you're
almost able to focus.
I have clients that have have a nonprofit. A lot of them last year were.
But it's great. So like I said, I'm proud of you. You know what? You were saying how you used to be embarrassed to ask, too many questions, and then you decide to do this podcast and all you're doing is asking questions. So you go, girl.
Because I realized that there is, I feel like the space was needed. Like, look how, as a single mother, you have 2 brokerages in 2 different states. Not only that, you have your clients are all, you're at a different caliber in there's a certain, I guess, a certain type of client that, you're kind of dealing with. You work with builders and developer. All because you decided, I'm going after this. You decided this is what I want, and this is what I'm going after, and you still find the time to give your time back and help others, and that is incredible. And I think those are things that are not highlighted enough. There's so many women in our industry that do incredible things like that, and that's really why
you did this, because you wanted to give them a voice.
I did. And the thing is that my career changed when a woman kind of shared her experiences with me. That's what changed the course of my career. Because early on in my career, when I decided to focus just on commercial, it was really hard. was really hard tapping into that industry.
It is. It's very male.
It was very male dominated.
It's another thing I like about it.
And that was one of the things that I'm not afraid of being in the boys club. I've always felt comfortable, even when they don't feel comfortable. It's like, that's not my problem, that's yours. I'll walk into a room full of, I'm the only female and, the only female in the room, and I'm okay with that because I know, I'm just me. And it doesn't bother me. But I had a lot of challenges at the time. And her telling me, she was a successful attorney. She had a few locations, like 30 something employees at the time. And she just shared where she started and how her struggles. And that really was what changed the course of my career. Because that day, I really felt like, I'm not going to do this anymore. This is just not, if there's so many roadblocks or so many.
We all have those days. We all have those days. And it's usually, I was just saying, breakdowns are breakthroughs. They really are.
They are.
Breakdowns are breakthroughs. And sometimes there's this day where you feel like all the air was let out of your tires. And then somehow the next day you're so much stronger. Like because you can't constantly, we're constantly on. And I completely get what you're saying. And there are plenty of women out there that can do this and really succeed in a male-dominated industry, but you need to be cut from that cloth of being able to walk into a boardroom and feel very comfortable with the fact that you're the only woman there. To be honest, to me, that's my comfort zone. And it could be because I have 2 brothers and 2 sons, and my whole world has always been men. And I would like for other women to be strong and be capable and know that, it's not what you like, it's not who you are. It's the knowledge, it's the confidence, it's the experience, it's the guts to go in there and do it, so it doesn't, and so it's there's no reason to feel intimidated. And once you realize that, when you realize that you're going in there, and
you're the smartest one in the room,
it's guns blazing, and exactly, you can meet every objective, you can answer all the questions, and it feels really good.
It does.
It feels really good when that when you're walking out of there, the gentlemen in that room that, respectfully are all saying, she knows who she is, she knows it. She knows what she's talking about. And that feels good. And that feels good, so it's knowing what you're doing and being successful in a male-dominated industry as a woman. No matter how far we think we've come, it's still a challenge, and it's still something to be very proud of. Because of course we're eons ahead of where we were, but it's because there are so many women in power, but still, people don't realize that it still is a challenge. It's still not completely equal. The expectations are different. And when you're, you just need to meet them head on and still maintain your femininity. And that's another thing, how do you do it without becoming masculine? You don't need to be masculine. You're a woman. You remain feminine and knowledgeable. You can be both.
You can. And there's power in being both, because our perspective.
Tremendous power in being both. I think that that shift that goes on with a woman is when she thinks she has to take on this masculine role at first in order to go, I got this. That emoji that's like this.
Yeah, I understand.
And then you realize, you don't need to do that. You can just be.
I understand that so much, and that resonates so much, because that's how I was in the beginning of my career. I said, you know what, I have to be a certain way. I have to wear the black suit and the black dress, and I thought I had to be in like a box. And then I was like, I don't need to be in a box. I don't need to be in a box, because I'm gonna break the damn box open, because I'm not meant to fit in a box, and I'm not meant to be one of them. It's like I said, sometimes you're intimidated in going to these rooms, and sometimes they're not even, you think, oh, they're going to be smart, or they're going to be so smart, and what am I going to say? And it's, once you have the knowledge behind you, and you understand that it also, the knowledge and the confidence together, you're unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
You really are.
Absolutely.
Like you said, it feels so good.
You know how, go ahead, I'm sorry. It was like cutting out.
No, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. But it's
like you know how they say, people will treat you the way that you allow them to treat you, right? And you get you receive the respect that you deserve, that you demand. Like you'll get the respect that you deserve by demanding the respect that you deserve. And so if you're walking into, there shouldn't be an issue with gender. A person is walking into the room. I'm a person, you're a person. I don't care what we are. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. I don't care, if you're tall or short or fat or skinny, or I don't care, where you come from, what your religion is. We're walking in there as, two people with a goal. Gender aside, the only thing you need to be concerned with is, are you sitting across the table from someone that's intelligent enough to get this done? And it doesn't matter if she's wearing a skirt or pants, that shouldn't even be a second thought when you're getting dressed in the morning. Oh, I better wear a pantsuit because otherwise they're not going to respect me. That's complete bull. It's like, walk in there knowing, you know your stuff, know what you're talking about, and you'll be respected for that. There's no way that you won't be. And if they can't handle it, then that's on them. That's not on me. And then you know what? Then a deal won't get done, and it's your loss. So it's amazing that in this day and age we're still talking about gender equality or inequality, but it does exist.
It does.
And there are, but the industries are starting to evolve. Like commercial real estate. It's evolving.
It's because people are having the tough conversations. It's it's finally, the topic is now out in the open, and more people are open to the discussion. At least that's been my experience. Before, it was kind of like just kind of unspoken, it is what it is. But now there's a lot more talks of diversity on the table, where it's like, okay, how do we change this? Because we don't want to be, known for this in the industry. Because I remember before I even decided to start my own brokerage, I interviewed with a big brokerage because I was like, I want to go for the biggest brokerage. I want to really take my career to the next level. And when I interviewed with them, I had done commercial deals already. I think I was already 4 years in, and I was already exclusively really doing commercial deals. And they wanted to make me like a junior associate. And I said, no, I want to start my own team. They said, we don't have anyone in leadership here that starts off that way. And I said, okay, how many women do you have on the staff? All the women were all junior associates. There wasn't anyone in leadership.
Really?
In one of the one of the really big firms.
Well, okay, so the larger houses actually are the majority, in the larger houses, the majority of the commercial real estate brokers are male, not female, to this day. There are some very talented women, but the majority are men. I also never had an affinity to go to the larger houses because I felt the same way. I want my own team. I have my own relationships. I don't want to hand my relationships over. I know what I'm talking about. I would rather, do the grunt work. I have never sold anything that I haven't walked the rooftop of. I've got this like hashtag stiletto warrior thing that started like years back, because I'm literally like walking rooftops in my stilettos. I'm climbing upstairs and I'm like, no. Like I want to see every inch of it. I'm not scared of it. I've had crazy spiders and rats and all kinds of crazy stuff, because you never know where you're going to end up.
Yeah, you never know. Some of these buildings.
Suck it up. And like, so I like seeing it, because I don't believe in paper pushing. Like, I want to see it. So I'll fly to Texas, and I'll fly anywhere I have to go. If there's a property there that I need to sell, that I want to see it, you know, and I want to feel it and touch it and see the neighborhood, you know what, you know, and really get into it. And as a junior, you're not going to be given those opportunities. You need to take those opportunities. And so the same thing, I was like, I'm just going to do this for myself. You know, I'm already talking to the big boys, you know, so I'm going to do this myself. And, yeah, it's interesting that it's still like that, but
this wasn't that long ago. This was 2018.
yeah, no, it's not that long ago. I mean, it's like that even now. If you look at the numbers statistically, the larger real estate houses that are commercial, they're primarily men. You can even look at the websites, and when it says, you know, our team, and it's mostly men.
Yeah.
You know, and that's great. And
Yeah.
that's great. But, you know, it's what makes you stand apart. As a matter of fact, what I was telling you before about divas. So, Eleonora, who's my co-founder, she, you know, she's a woman in construction and, you know, millwork and stone. And she has her own consortium in Italy and so she supplies stone and, you know, kitchens and bathrooms to very large developers, very large scale and small scale. And so she's always men. Every time we're in the same office in New York. And so every time, you know, I'll go up to where she is, men and blueprints and like this whole, and it's so funny because, we laugh, and that's why we actually even started this organization. We're like, we want to give back. And so the women that we have as our charter members are it's very interesting. You know, there's women-owned construction companies and, you know, women-owned, you know, design firms, which it's possibly more common, but there's women-owned plumbing companies. I'm sorry?
Engineering firms, like
engineering firms. I mean, it's cool. There's a lot of, you know, it's awesome.
It is.
It really
It is awesome. And it's awesome. I love to collaborate and work with other women. And, like, nothing makes me happier to be able to hire a woman that she specializes in something, and it's like, yes, come on board, show me. And I love to showcase, you know, her specialty. I've done that for a few of my clients, and that's why a lot of agents, I remember and I think it's an important point. A lot of agents don't realize how important it is to really network within. They used to say, why would I want to network with another agent? This is why. Because there's relationships that we can connect, you know, amongst ourselves, and not only just deals, but, like, you know, other professionals that we can bring into, you know, hey, do you know a good architect, or, you know, a good designer, and those relationships are invaluable. I mean,
absolutely. I mean, especially when you're working on the commercial side. I mean, it works for both, but
for sure.
Every time, yeah, like I have very strong relationships with architects in town, very large architects and designers. And so whenever I'm preparing, you know, an offering memorandum or something, I do the homework first and go, obviously, to get the zoning analysis and the zoning survey. And I'm having these conversations. I'm, you know, bringing the clients to the table, like, you know, everyone there, you know, whoever it is that they like, soup to nuts, especially now, because I have this whole New York, South Florida thing. You know, people that have developed in New York haven't necessarily developed here in South Florida, and vice versa. And so I'm already tapped in to these zoning and planning attorneys and the local architects and, you know, expediters for permits. And, you know, so I try to really, the same thing, just be like a full service, soup to nuts. Let's make the introduction. Let's, like, you know, this way it's not just, you know, you can envision the entire project, not just through your own eyes, but through the eyes of every other important person that's going to take part in getting this, you know, to fruition. Yeah. So, yeah, it's really important. And people ask they want to know, like, you know, what designer would you recommend, or what, and I think it's important to know these things and be educated and read up on it. So how many, I mean, there's like hundreds of thousands of people that have their real estate license, but there's doing it as a job, and then there's doing it as a career. And it's more than just having your license. I run into people all the time. They go, oh, I have my license too. I'm like, okay, well, that's great. But when you really want to do something with it and you really want to take a bite, let me know, because there's a lot to do. It's more than just, I passed my test and now
I'm ready to sell houses.
I'm going to sell houses. And then it's, let me know if you have someone. It's like, no, you go. There's this saying in Russian that my dad taught me that I grew up with, and it's and it translates to the wolf's legs feed him. So my dad was always like, you're a wolf. The wolf's legs feed him, because he's not going to eat if he doesn't go and hunt for his food. And it's this Russian statement. So his legs are feeding him because he's hunting, he's roaming, right? There's all these really great sayings in Russian. Like, how all of our ethnicity, like all these sayings our grandparents and our parents say, and all of a sudden it makes so much sense. That one is one of my favorites, because my dad was always like, you're a wolf. Because I'm always like, hunting, like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And that's how you eat. And so just, word to the wise for the agents that really want this as a career. You can't just get your license and sit there and wait for somebody to feed you leads. That's not anyone's job. It's not. Your job is to go out and hunt.
Yes, for sure. That's a very nice way to put it, because a lot of people don't realize that this is a sales position. Like they see like the glorified part, but don't realize how much work you have to put in years. I know some people that do residential that they only work on referrals, but they've been doing this 10 years already. They built
they built that business. They built a referral business, and that's fine. That's great. People, you choose what you're going to, but yeah, it's years of developing relationship. This is a relationship business. First of all, if you're not a people person, you shouldn't be doing it. If you're lazy, you shouldn't be doing it. If you're, if you're not resourceful, you shouldn't be doing it. This is, like I said before, it's not for the weak. This is not an easy business. Just because a lot of people have their license doesn't mean, maybe the license is easier to come by than for others. Some people test better than others do. Some people have photographic memory and they can pass a test like this. Having your license doesn't mean that you're a real estate professional. Being a real estate professional means that you're out there doing the work, and you're putting in your time, and you're building those relationships to get to the next level. And it takes time. And it's an effort and perseverance and tenacity.
It does.
And that's why women are so good at it.
Licensed and ready to sell. That's what I had one conversation recently. I was like, so you're licensed and are you ready to